Welcome to the Onebar and Lupagus Show, your daily source for everything Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. You know, there's this thing. I was gonna try to dress scary, but I don't think that there could be a costume as scary as the way the Minnesota Vikings played on Thursday. And I know that for a fact because I was in fact there in person. All right, I'm gonna take this off now because it's like cutting off my circulation. Hi everybody, welcome to the Onebar and Lupagus Network. And here with your least favorite segment, Spittin' Fire with Koda. My name is Koda. Just as a nice little reminder, you can get 15% off site-wide at the Aries Archive with the code Spitfire15. You could get jackets, you could get amazing shirts, you can get pants, you can get beanies, you could get scrunchies, anything Minnesota Vikings, believe me, Aries Archive can deliver. Again, that is Spitfire15 for 15% off store-wide over at the Aries Archive. Let's get into it. First and foremost, yes, I did go to the Thursday night football game at SoFi against the Chargers. And let me just say that my personal experience of the game was a lot better than the last time I went to SoFi. I went for the Rams Vikings game, which was also a disaster class. But this time I didn't have my purse stolen. So that was a positive. And I started a SKOL chant. And I got to see Joshua Metellus have an interception live. Speaking of Joshua Metellus, did you guys know that he has more interceptions than Isaiah Rodgers? Because I did. Did you guys also know that he has more passes defended than Isaiah Rodgers? Because I did. Sure, Isaiah Rodgers does have 2 forced fumbles, and that is really great. And yes, Isaiah Rodgers should technically have 2 interceptions, 1 being a pick 6. It's technically 2 now, actually, if I believe. But he doesn't. And I mean, I'm not going to talk about how trashy the refereeing was that game because that's not a hot take. We know it. But yeah, you guys aren't talking about Joshua Metellus enough for me, and I'm getting real sick and tired of it. You all were telling me that it wasn't his best game against the Chargers. Well, of course it wasn't. He was one of the only people doing anything out there on the defense. He's going to get tired eventually. It's mind-boggling to me that a lot of y'all will sleep on Joshua Metellus just because he's simply doing his job, and yet he is consistently putting up the best numbers on the Minnesota Vikings defense. In regards to solo tackles, he is 3rd in how many solo tackles he has, technically tied for 1st with Ivan Pace Jr., Wilson, and him with 25 solo tackles. He is ranked technically tied for 3rd with Ivan Pace Jr. at 16 assisted tackles, and total tackles, he currently is, where did he go? He went away, but he's on there. Listen, all I'm saying is that he is doing some of the most amount of work other than Grenard. And yeah, Grenard. They're doing the most on the defense. And listen, we love Harrison Smith, and it's not his fault that he's not producing because he isn't playing as many snap counts as he probably should. But he is making an impact when he is out there. But listen, y'all are sleeping on Joshua Metellus. And I know I've already said that. And I know I'm going to get people being like, Koda, shut up about Joshua Metellus. He isn't playing that well. He is literally the most important part of this defense. He is the most productive guy on this defense. Is he doing the flashy plays? No, but I think you all forget that doing defense is simply stopping them from doing anything with the ball and isn't entirely about the flashy plays. He can't do everything. And as much as I love Isaiah Rodgers and respect the hell out of the guy, there are often times on Thursday where I was like, what is he doing? It seems to me like he's only really playing for the big plays. But it makes sense when you consider that it feels like their defensive coordinator also plays the same way. I'm sorry, you guys aren't giving enough criticism to B-Flow for me. A lot of you are, and you're calling out the fact that it seems like his flashy defense is now being recognized and called out and is better prepared against. There were multiple times on 3rd down where I was like, why aren't we blitzing here? Why is it that he is so blitz heavy on 1st and 2nd down, but when we sometimes need to blitz on 3rd down, he pulls off? I get it. You want the quarterback to stress. You definitely want it to read one way but not do it another way. But there are just certain times where playing basic football is what is necessary. You guys are willing to call out Kevin O'Connell for that. And the media is willing to call out Kevin O'Connell for being too flashy sometimes and getting back to basics. But there isn't enough critique of Brian Flores doing the same thing for me. He needs to get back to basics sometimes. And this is not the first time that I've said this on this segment. He needs to get back to basics. Then I'll start feeling comfortable. It isn't all just because one person is injured. You can't just continue to say that everything is going to be fixed once Van Ginkel comes back. One player does not make that much of a difference. The proof is in the cake with the Detroit Lions. Look at what they were able to accomplish last week with all the injuries they have on defense. I'm sorry, but injuries on defense as an excuse will only last you so far in this league, and I'm tired of it. To me, we're beyond the point where it matters. You need to figure out how to play defense. You need to figure out how to not leave receivers wide open in the middle of the field. Are we scared of that part of the field? Can we not cover there? Why do we have people? Maybe I should have dressed up as the middle of the field. Totally would have scared the Minnesota Vikings defense. For sure. Speaking of scary things, let's talk about Carson Wentz. Because everyone else is right now. And I mean, I'm trying my best. I made a promise that I would stop talking about him and JJ. But I feel like this is a situation in which I want to give my 2 cents on. I don't think Kevin O'Connell is solely to blame for the situation with Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is a grown-up. He is an adult who could have advocated for himself better. But I mean, this is also the man that apparently played on a torn MCL and meniscus a couple of years ago. Not to mention, I cannot believe that the medical staff was like, yeah, he'll need surgery eventually, but he's fine right now. Like, why are you all sitting here? And maybe, I am a known Kevin O'Connell lover and defender, and I'm not saying that Kevin O'Connell isn't to blame at all for this. He absolutely entirely is. But I do personally believe that it shouldn't all be placed on Kevin O'Connell. There was a article in Sports Illustrated a couple hours ago talking about this. And basically he goes on to explain how Carson Wentz was medically cleared and why he decided to play him. And it all really boils down to the fact that Carson Wentz was like, yeah, I'm good to go. I can play. And should Kevin O'Connell have stepped in and go, no, I don't feel comfortable with that? Absolutely. There were multiple times during the game where I would turn over to my brother or my bubby, because I went with my bubby, and I'd go, why aren't they taking him out? Why aren't they taking him out? Because it was evident to me that his shoulder was bothering him. Just because you're not throwing with that arm does not mean that it is not an integral part of the process in which one throws a football. You still have to turn. There is still motion in that shoulder. He looked like he was the Winter Soldier out there with the contraption he had on his left arm. And while Kevin O'Connell said, he literally said to me when he first started playing, he was so excited to play meaningful football again. Once he sustained the initial injury to his left shoulder against the Browns, it was really a matter of going to the medical interpretations, where once Carson was told, you're going to have to get this fixed, but you can't really make it worse, I believe was his phrase to me, I want to take advantage of this opportunity. I get to play with the coaching staff and these players for the Minnesota Vikings. I want to exhaust every possible way that I can. At some point, Kevin O'Connell needs to be the actual coach. It can't just be about helping these guys fulfill their dreams of playing for the Minnesota Vikings. And I get it. Carson Wentz had and has a lot to prove, but you are still the coach. Now, what is it about Max Brosmer that you looked at him and went, no, he can't play? Towards the end of the game, we put in Max Brosmer, and yeah, at that point, he was playing against, second, third level string defense from the Chargers, but his throws looked accurate. He looked good to me. So why couldn't he have played? What was so much better with Carson Wentz going, basically getting beat up to all hell, that was better than Max Brosmer? I don't understand. I don't understand the logic. And maybe it's, he wanted to protect Max. Maybe it has a lot to do with the health and longevity, but look at where we're at now. I love JJ McCarthy, but the guy has made it apparent that he's made out of glass. We need somebody to help these two young guys out. So I absolutely am in favor of us trading for somebody or something. before the deadline. I wouldn't be surprised. And I think you all know who I am in favor of trading for, that I don't even have to mention it. Because I do personally believe that tight end is cooked. I'm also really sick and tired of the people complaining about Christian Darrisaw not getting more snaps. He wasn't supposed to play for a vast majority of the season, and I think people forgot that. I witnessed that injury live. I mean, most of us did, but I was in person when it happened. It did not look good. His injury should have kept him out until about now, frankly. This is around the time when he should have come back in. I mean, remember TJ Hawkinson? Homeboy didn't come in until halfway through last season after his similar injury. Not to mention, we want to keep Christian Darrisaw around for a long time, or did you guys forget that? I don't think it's such a bad thing that he's on limited snap counts, and genuinely with how demanding his position is and how integral he is to that offensive line, I would rather him take the snap counts the way that he is now and help him get better before, if, knock on wood, we actually make it to playoffs this year, versus him going out there and re-injuring himself. Also, not a hot take, or at least it shouldn't be a hot take. Football players are allowed to be people. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. Let's talk about this for a second. The guy went to In-N-Out after a loss, 2 hours after a loss, and you're mad that he posted about it? What would you like him to do? You want him to go sulk in the corner? He's off the clock by that point. There are probably many things that you guys do once you're off the clock at your job that you don't get criticized for, because that's not the way the life works. Just because these guys play football does not mean that they are constantly, always, 100% of the time football players, as one guy in my comments tried to suggest. They're humans before they are football players. And it doesn't sit right with me that some of you can't recognize that. Homie was in California and got In-N-Out. What do you mean it's not reading the room for him to post it? You're acting as if he killed somebody and then went to In-N-Out and posted about it. We lost the game. Any given Sunday, guys. He went to In-N-Out. Also, can you all leave Isaiah Rodgers alone with, his personal life stuff? You're allowed to critique your favorite football players. Nobody is telling you that you're not. You're allowed to say you dislike them. You're allowed to say that you think that they could be doing better. You're allowed to call out where they're not doing well. But it should stop at their gameplay and not them as people. It should stop at their gameplay and not what they do. It should stop at their gameplay and not get to a racist place. Lastly, let's talk about Kwesi. Kwesi was extended in May 2025 for a couple more years. I believe it's 3 more years. And I want to see him get rid of his scouting team. And I want to see what that does. I'm not entirely all for outright firing him, because some of his offseason acquisitions, beautiful, peak. You all know this. I don't have to tell you that. Drafting, on the other hand, not my favorite. But I'm not alone in that. And I'm curious as to if that changes if he gets a better scouting team. If he has better people out there watching college games, if he has better people out there advising him on that. I would very much like to see what happens if he gets new people on his scouting team, because I believe part of it has to do with that. But the thing about it is that you never entirely know how somebody is going to do. It's the point of the draft. You hope for the best. And I say that in regards to JJ McCarthy. I say that in regards to Dallas Turner, who frankly is actually doing a pretty great job. Yes, he had 2 penalties against him, but I don't think he's doing that poor of a job. My biggest issue is that I feel like people don't give these young guys enough time. And you get upset when you bring up other people. Aaron Rodgers wasn't the best, and he sat for a while. Took him a bit. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. They go through lumps. They got to get bruises when they start. And that isn't just for the quarterback position. That's for every single position. Not all of them can be fantastic and wonderful and amazing right off the bat like Justin Jefferson was. And frankly, had he not have debuted in the 2020 season, I don't think he would have been as explosive as he was. I think he would have had a little bit of a rocky rookie season. But hindsight and all that. I just think there isn't enough grace given to the people who play football for our favorite football team. Now, and I'm not saying that you have to like be okay with everything that they do, even if they suck. You're allowed to critique your favorite football players. But I think it gets to a point where those of us who make content, those of us who tweet about it, believe that we know everything. These are just my opinions. I don't claim to be right or wrong. I just give my opinions out into the universe and you guys listen to me. I give my opinions based on what I think the stats are saying. And the stats are saying Joshua Metellus is the most consistent player on the Minnesota Vikings defense right now, if not one of the best defensive players on the Minnesota Vikings right now. That the Carson Wentz situation is not just on Kevin O'Connell. But he should have done more. He should have done better. That Brian Flores needs to be held accountable the same way that you all try to hold Kevin O'Connell accountable for the way that the offense plays. And that Kwesi definitely needs a new scouting team before I am on board with the fire him squad. Fire him squad. I think Kwesi can do a wonderful, amazing things, and he has in the past. I just think you guys aren't patient enough to see the fruition of it. But that's just me. Those are my hot takes today. Remember to use promo code Spitfire15 for 15% off site-wide at Ari's Archive. Happy Halloween. I hope that the Thursday night game is the scariest thing that happens to you this week. And as always, thank you for watching Spit and Fire with Koda here on the Onebar and Lupagus Network. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Happy Halloween. Bye.